I'm Chase.
And I'm Timothy.
And this is Customer Service.
How we doing, big dog?
Big Brondo, my boy. We got a lot of work to do, but we are cruising over this way.
We have been just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And Chase and I are both good workers that get distracted easily, and there's been a lot of different stuff going on. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we've been doing a lot of different types of stuff, like a lot of podcasting, a lot of interviews, a lot of
buying,
a lot of, like, you know,
we need racks. We need
a
racks
new person started with us.
Yeah,
this
yeah,
week.
yeah.
We're changing this, changing that, finishing up, buying for the season. It's just been like my head's been like 100 different places. It's been a lot for our dumbasses.
And also worth noting, busy on the weekends, bro. I've seen you.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of Brondo lately.
Yeah, we got to stop hanging out. It's too much. So today we have on the podcast, I have to imagine if you're listening to this podcast, you've at bare minimum heard of him or not seen his content around, and that's Nolan Daniel White. He is a bit of a savant when it comes to like knowledge on fashion, especially as it pertains to menswear, watches, things like this. I like his work because it's sincere. It's approachable. It's well researched. It feels like talking to someone it's not just their opinion on style and everything like that, but it's much more about, here's the work, here's what I think's best. I've put in the work for you. I'm helping you curate.
Here's the information.
It's what I fancy myself doing as a buyer of, like, I'm weeding out the things you don't need to see. I'm doing these things. I think, you think you're always doing the right thing, whether you are or not. You never know. You always miss something. But, it's good work. I really like the way he approaches his content. And I just think that there's something to be said for that. So we wanted to get him on and talk, how he got to what he's doing. Because I think people are always curious of, like, how do you start, like, just making content one day?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's ever this one clear, I've made a decision. It's this little, like, it's an interesting story almost every single time. Exactly. Yeah. So it's fun to hear, like, what his story was and how he got there and what he wants to do in the future and how he thinks of style and criticism and all this interesting stuff too. So
it was a fun and easy, nice chat. We established, where he's from in Canada is just the Midwest, just upper, more higher up.
More higher up. The Midwestern term for north.
That's my parking lot Ohio coming out. But it was a real pleasure. So
yeah, this was awesome. So let's get into it with him. And obviously you can check him out at all his channels. He's Nolan Daniel White. He's easy to find.
Yep.
He's the man. So let's get into it.
Yep.
All right. What's good, man? Just getting your day going, or what are you up to?
Pretty much. I did a little writing this morning. I got a buddy in visiting from town. That's Bailey.
What up, Bailey?
He's sleeping on the couch. Layabout. And woke up. Did a little writing for the newsletter, working on like a homeware brand guide sort of thing, catch-all. And then I got out to the gym and just got back from that. Now chilling, got to go pick up my bike because it's in the shop. Gonna ride that back, maybe go for a little bike ride, and then that's the day.
You got a fucking day, man.
Yeah, sounds like a great day, dude.
Where are you at?
I'm in Montreal right now.
Montreal, okay. All right. I don't know why would I don't know. I thought you were a New York guy for some reason, but I don't know why that. And then you said something, I'm like, this is definitely a guy from Canada.
This would not be feasible.
That's very fair.
That's fair. Yeah.
Because I was going to say,
looking
I
at
was
the
like,
space,
man, I didn't know New York had castles too.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
The rent here is significantly more affordable. I'd be in, my half of a shoebox in New York, I think, which is why I like it up here. You just got to tough out winters.
You born and raised here, or where are you from originally?
Born and raised in a place called Windsor, Ontario. So it's right across the border from Detroit. It takes like 10 minutes to get there. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. So I'm from Cleveland, and Timothy is from Indianapolis to Chicago. Fort Wayne, it's relatively close. In fact, I accidentally took the bridge out of Detroit to Canada, and we had to sign a bunch of paperwork saying, like, we're so sorry, we didn't mean to get on this bridge. We actually were just trying to go to a show in Detroit, and we had to sign all this paperwork and like show our IDs and like declare that we were not trying to enter the country illegally, because obviously we didn't have passports or anything either. But nonetheless, hey, buddy, we almost crossed paths.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's an all right city. We used to be the strip club capital of Canada, but we lost that race, I think, to Montreal now.
Bummer.
It's why I left the city.
I was gonna say,
there wasn't enough diversity in the strip club scene.
Yeah, I just go where they go. And then, actually, funny enough, my nan is from Cleveland. She grew up in Shaker Heights. I think she went to the same high school as Kid Cudi, not at the same time. But yeah,
right on. Shaker is magnificent, beautiful. When we would play Shaker in soccer, when I was a freshman, they had like the state's best tennis player. He was like, however, like 13, 14 when you enter high school. Absolutely came first in state, so that was insane. But then we would go play soccer at Shaker, and the campus looks a lot like Hogwarts. It's quite pretty. Yeah,
that was cool.
There's like levels to the Midwest. I mean, we have like areas where it's like that's the one rich part. You know what I mean? And like Shaker Heights has got like that. Like we have Carmel, Indiana, which is like this one part where it's like everything's fucking sick there. It's way better there, and it is a noticeable difference between there and everywhere else. Yeah. Do you have that in Canada? You got like little spots. I mean, you guys got big cities. You know what I mean? So it doesn't. Like, you know what I mean? But
yeah, like not to the same extent. Like there is definitely in certain, like in the bigger cities. Like I remember even in Detroit, like Birmingham, like that kind of thing where you've got like square miles on square miles with like beautiful boulevards and vegged out medians and all that good shit, and bike paths and tall old oak trees and nice architecture. You've got that here, like Montreal, for example. There's a spot called Westmount. And it's technically, it's not a neighborhood, it's its own city within Montreal. They've like basically seceded from Montreal on a municipal like courts level, and basically just made it so that they could, like, they have their own police force, they have their own fire department, so all of their property tax money doesn't get distributed to the rest of the city. So everybody's like, fuck those guys. But they've got like, it's noticeably nicer. The streets are kept better, cleaner. The snow gets removed quicker, all that, and it's like it's like the Hollywood Hills of Montreal. So you definitely see that, but like in terms of the sprawl, I think like there's not, and I think it's just a population game where like there won't necessarily be like a whole town that's really like that. Obviously, like there are some towns that are nicer than others and stuff like that, but like I don't think we have the scale to get there.
Yeah,
right on.
Yeah. What was what were you into growing up out there? What's the scene? Were you a cool music scene, a hockey guy? Yeah, what are you into?
Like everybody else was into hockey, so like I was kind of de facto into hockey because of that, but like not crazy. I didn't really play other than like some pond hockey here and there. I bounced around from sport to sport, but like never really got into anything. I did 2 years of baseball, 2 years of soccer, 2 years, of football. All that kind of stuff, a little bit of tennis, and nothing ever really stuck. And then, when I was growing up, like there was definitely like a little bit of a like sneaker scene that kind of bled over from Detroit. So that's what got me into fashion originally, was like, at first I was into cars, and then I got into watches, and then I got into like sneakers, the whole, hype beast pipeline, and then I just kind of traveled down the rabbit hole. That's what kind of started it off for me. But by the time, like, there wasn't really much of a scene. There's not much of an art scene. Detroit has some really cool art, really cool artists. Obviously, like, there's a huge techno scene, punk scene there. You get a little bit of bleed over, but not really a ton. Windsor's like pretty suburban. So by the time I was 16, I think I'd kind of outgrown it, and that's why I moved up here.
Yeah,
right on, dude.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it's like it's funny that like it's so close to here, so it's really like you want to think of it as like different, but it's kind of like the same. You're kind of like more or less Midwestern. We just use up higher.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, we're technically below Detroit. It like wraps.
Oh, okay.
Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
interesting.
So it's very, it has a very similar feel to the Midwest.
So your entry into like all the stuff you're doing now, all this fashion shit, was sneakers? Would you say?
Yeah, it was sneakers, and then it was like Bape, Supreme, Palace, And then that kind of fed into like engineered garments. Actually, no, sorry. I went down like a little road where I kind of got all, and this was like late high school. I got super into like archive Japanese and like Dutch Antwerp designers, and got like really heady about it.
And so you're an internet guy.
I was an internet kid. Yeah. I didn't have anybody to talk this shit about. So
yeah, exactly.
Like going down the rabbit holes. And then I'm like, this is too much work. I'm just going to chill it out a little bit. And then I kind of pulled back and then went kind of down the road I'm down now.
When do you start like putting it online? Like when does like all these interests, do you start from the beginning, or did you start like, where was like your starting point there?
I mean, I'd had like some friends online and I would post like a fit pic or two, but I was never like really conscious about it. At first I had like a little Instagram account separate from mine that I just used for like reselling stuff and, posting stuff. Yeah. That I was selling. I would buy some vintage stuff. So I had that at first. And then I started kind of like an archive page, when I got more into that, niche into kind of like the weird like archival world, and then I had a little vintage account when I was in university. I would like go and like sift through bales of vintage in Toronto and then bring it back up to Kingston, which is where I was going to university. I did that for the first year. One of this flannel's actually something that I just kept from that that run, and then I didn't actually start putting myself online really until January of 2021. It's like 3 and a bit years ago. Yeah.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
What made you want to make the change? Was there like an impetus for it? It was just sort of like, fuck it.
It was kind of fuck it. Yeah. Like, it was a combination of things. Like it was COVID. Like we had really long lockdowns in Canada. So like we were on our second or third lockdown. I was pretty bored. I again, had always loved fashion. I built up a pretty good wardrobe at the time that I was pretty happy with, but I didn't feel like I was using it all that much. I kind of felt like I was just putting on the same outfits because I wasn't going inside, It was lockdown in January in Canada. And I'm like, okay, maybe if I create some sort of, personal accountability to make a new outfit every day. So I'm like, okay, for 30 days, I'm going to just put on a new outfit and make a new outfit for 30 days. Instead of wearing the same outfits that I've been kind of recycling over and over again. So I started with that. And I started putting it up on TikTok because I didn't want anybody to find me on Instagram.
Interesting.
And then I started getting people asking questions and they would say, where did you get this? Where did you get that? I would make a response video. And then some of those started to take off, and then it just kind of grew organically from there. But I also think there was part of me that was thinking, I'd grown up when I was 16, 17, 18 watching PAQ and guys like Magnus Ronning and Sanjeev and Kyron Warwick. And I was like, okay, this seems really cool. This seems like something I would enjoy. When I was watching those videos, I could think of the stuff that I would say in that video.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to me. And I'm like, okay, maybe I want to try that out. Maybe I'll, if this starts to get some traction, then I'll go in that direction. So that was one thing. And then also I kind of looked back at YouTube and the people who had started on YouTube. YouTube was founded in 2005. The people who had gotten on between like 2005 and 2012, if you had really gotten on, stayed consistent and built up and just focused on improving your content day after day, like, a lot of those people got pretty successful. Like it was, as long as you plugged those things in, you were pretty much going to succeed. And then it got oversaturated. And then now, even if you do all the things right for a long time, you need a good amount of luck to kind of pop off.
Yeah.
It was kind of a land grab during those years. And I kind of saw that with TikTok back in 2021. I'm like the train's leaving the station. Like this app has been around really since 2018. Like obviously it was Musical.ly before, but like it's changing form. It started in 2018 maybe. And this is maybe the last year or so where I think like I'll have an easier point of entry. Obviously people still make it today and they probably still will, as long as it doesn't get banned. But I was like, okay, maybe we'll just, throw our hat in the ring and see if it works.
Yeah. And that's where it like popped for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Slowly, but yeah.
Yeah.
Is there like, I mean, just because you mentioned it, I've thought about this before, but never thought to ask anyone. Like, is it like a concern of yours that it gets banned?
No, not me. Because I've been able to build a big enough platform on Instagram, sure. I'm not that worried about it. And the way I see it is like, if it gets banned, people aren't going to spend any less time scrolling. They're just going to find somewhere else to scroll.
Yeah.
You know, 100%.
It's like prohibition didn't stop people from drinking less.
Yeah.
And, and there wasn't even another option during that. Whereas this, like, I think people are just going to go to reels and shorts. Right now, I think a lot of people split their time between the two, but if it gets banned, sure. people probably just spend all their time on reels.
Yeah. Wild. Yeah. I mean, that's just like an interesting thing to navigate. Because what else do you do besides this? Or is this like your full time? Is this what you're putting all your effort into?
I split my time probably like almost equally, a third between making content. Now the newsletter probably takes up a third of my time.
Yep.
And then I do some work with Aaron Levine. So I work with him on all of his consulting projects. I just kind of help him out with the creative consulting process of it all, creative direction. And, that's also now including his own line that he's working on, which is really exciting. And then I've got a couple little side projects where I'm just working on some product right now. Just me and some brands that I really fuck with that, like, I just wanted to, make a one-off product with. And that's something that, like, I want to dedicate more of my effort and time to. I think it's really important. And like, I love product. It's what I do. It's what I look at all the time. And now I'm like, okay, I want to actually make some of it myself, rather than just talk about the shit that other people are making.
Yeah. Yeah. How sick, dude. We had Aaron on, and that is, I think we hear about that episode most. He is an otherworldly figure. Yeah. Just like,
he's the man.
He came in and we met him, and just a really, really, really nice fella. So how lucky you get to work with him, man.
Honestly. Yeah. I'm so grateful. He's like my big brother,
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you like? Let's say the TikTok, let's say it all gets fucking banned. It all gets got. What do you want to do? Like, if you look at like everything you've set up, what do you want to be doing in like 5-10 years? Do you think?
Good question, man. And I don't really have an answer, but I kind of see. I don't have a sure answer, but I see like a couple different alleys, and I could. I think it's going to be like a good enough opportunity, I think, will come where it'll be like, okay, you need to give your all to this. You need to drop the other two things. And I think that opportunity will call to me so much that it won't even feel like a hard decision to say, okay, fuck this. I can't do videos anymore, or can't do the stuff with Aaron anymore, or whatever. So, option A, I think, would be like lean into what I'm doing with Aaron. And depending on how the launch of his line goes, really get involved in the structure of that company, which is something that I would really like to do. And if all goes well, I will do. And then if he and I continue to consult together or separately or whatever, like following that road, I think like success stories, besides Aaron, like, I think Chris Black is a great example of someone who's managed to do that really well. Obviously he and Aaron have years and years and years, a lifetime of experience on top of me. But I think, it would be cool to be, sort of a young pair of eyes that could get hired out to different companies that might need it. And so that's one thing, kind of going on the industry side, and doing freelance creative direction or in-house creative direction. And so, yeah, that's kind of option A that I would really like to pursue. Option B would be, really, really focus in on the newsletter and on the content, really continue to let those feed into each other. And then eventually, maybe start hiring other people on, whether it's just part-time contributors who also make content for my channel and for the newsletter. And then maybe we build this into like kind of a little media company. And then along with that, continue to do product collaborations. I think there's a lot of people who have, built up a really good name for themselves on and just their own name, putting their name on product and designing product and doing a really good job of it. I think Sean Weatherspoon's a great example of someone who's like, he's done a Porsche, he's done Wranglers, he's done Levi's, he's done Nike, he's done Adidas. Like he makes his living off of being this, interesting point of view for hire.
Yeah.
So that's also something I would love to build in. But I think that sums up sort of the two directions: is do I stay customer facing? Do I stay very public? Or B, do I kind of move a little bit more behind the curtains? And I think the decision will come naturally.
Yeah. What feels like, how difficult is it for you? Because I feel like this is everyone we talk to that kind of works in your line of work has like a variance of answers here. But like, how is it difficult for you to put yourself out there? Like, do you like it, or have you just gotten used to it, or is it still like a challenge, or what level are you at?
It depends a lot. It depends on the day. There's some days where like I'm jamming, I'm feeling good, I'm confident. Yeah. My hair looks good. I feel good, like whatever combination of things. And I really enjoy putting myself out there. And on those days I feel like $1,000,000 and I feel like I'm helping people. Yeah. And then there are other days where whatever it is, I wake up on the wrong side of the bed. I didn't get enough sleep. I read a shitty comment. And I just want to like crawl into a hole, and like in my head in those moments, everybody hates me. And like, that's just that. I think that's something I've come to understand. No follower count, no amount of nice words from people, and no dollar amount will ever quench that. I think that's just part of the game. And the only way to deal with that is to accept that, and learn to mitigate those factors that contribute to feeling shitty. I think I think I still struggle to put myself, as in Nolan White, on the screen. I'm good when it comes to reading off some talking points, talking about a product, giving my opinion on it. But what I want to get better at is showing my own personality and a little bit more of my life, and just trying to connect with people a little more. And I'm working on that,
What do you think, like, give me an example of something you sort of like hold back from the camera. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, like I feel the same way. Like if you need me to, it was the same when we started doing content, I never wanted to really do any of it. If I'm being honest with you, Chase Latest, for years, I refused to do anything because it was like, I'll talk about the clothes or the whatever. If I'm just sharing information, like you're saying, no problem. It's just repeating stuff I know out, you know what I mean, out loud. It's no big deal. It's just factual stuff, or, giving up my opinion. That's fine. But when it comes to like putting yourself, it's like, number one, there was a lot of stores that would, for a while there, that like somebody that would owned it would get on the camera and you're like, Jesus Christ, like this is a whole vanity project, and I wanted to make sure that is absolutely what I refuse. Yeah. I'll shut it down today if I needed to prove that I'm not interested in that. So I'd still, like, I guess maybe similarly to you, I'd still gladly take the backseat to any front-facing stuff. But I also know that more and more people want to connect with what they're beyond just making a purchase. Like it's a way we can differentiate ourselves from something bigger. You know what I mean? Where we can be like, here's we are. You can ask us whatever we want. We're just like normal guys. You know what I mean? And we hope that helps people connect. And I think that like throughout the years, sharing and all this stuff only makes people like you more. Yeah, maybe a handful of people don't like it, but fuck them, they weren't going to ever like it. You know what I mean? So whatever. But I know like that's incredibly hard to deal with. Do you feel like there's like specific aspects of your life that you're just like not willing? Not to make it like, don't tell me you don't need to tell some dark secret, but like, is there things that like about yourself that you're like just haven't shared yet? You know what I mean? Like interests and things like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think part of it, I think that holds me back sometimes is like, are people even interested in this? People came here for watches and fashion. Do they really care about, what I'm having for breakfast or shit like that? That's part of it. I think a bit of my sense of humor. I think some of my, I think I hesitate to share some of my opinions because it's very difficult to have nuance and also maintain someone's attention. Something I'm working on and trying to get better at, especially within some of my longer form content. Yeah. But yeah, I would say just like I don't know if there's necessarily a subject matter. I think it's more in how I'm delivering the content that I'm trying to push myself to articulate myself better, to show a bit more of my personality, my sense of humor. I really do feel like I've got a spotlight on me when I'm in front of the camera, and I feel like I am presenting something, which is good a lot of the time. But I also I do wish that I could speak about the things that I'm speaking about in more of a conversational manner, like I talk, like I talk to them, or like I talk to my friends,
Sure.
Yeah.
It's really hard because it suddenly becomes not a conversation. Do you know what I mean? Like when you have to talk straight to the camera, it's not a conversation. And like you're saying, like, we have to be very diplomatic because we're also a business. Do you know what I mean? So you have to be somewhat careful there, although we want people to understand that, like we've always said, that the whole podcast is just us having strong opinions loosely held. Like it's just sort of like, but because that's what a conversation is. Like you'll be like, I hated this movie. And you'll be like, I liked this part. And you're like, oh, fuck, that part was cool. You know what I mean? Like, and you can have that full interchange and you can see it like humanizes both sides, but still presents a hard opinion. And like all of that's what makes like that kind of thing interesting. So it's like hard to like then go, I'm going to talk directly to the camera. And unless you're going to monologue and like have self-doubt in the middle of it, and this is going to be a very long video, like it's like difficult to like have that, like to be like vulnerable and interesting and have hard opinions, which people like hard opinions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know how you'd juggle it. Do you feel like you're doing a lot of like second guessing yourself and like basically what I'm just talked out where I second guessed everything I just said? You know what I mean? Like, is it difficult in that way when you're making something, or do you just get in front of the camera and go, I'm just going to run it and we'll see what happens?
Depends on the mood. Again, sometimes when I'm feeling good and I'm confident and I'm sure of myself, then it's no problem. And that comes when I'm filming it and when I'm posting it. Because sometimes I film that video, I've already posted something for the day, I'm going to wait 2 days. I feel really good about it in the time I should just click post.
Yeah.
And then I'm feeling a little shitty the other day, 2 days later, and I'm going to post it. I rewatch and I'm, well, someone could interpret it this way. And I don't want people to do that. I'm very, I'm a people pleaser by nature, and I still struggle with the idea. And it's just a fact of life that not everybody's going to like me. And that's okay. And that's really important to accept. And I'm getting better at accepting that. But I think there's two factors. One, if you put yourself out there and you put your true self out there, not everybody's going to like you.
Sure.
And also, I think for almost anything, if a lot of people love something, in order for a lot of people to love something, a lot of people have to hate it. Nothing that is truly ever great isn't equally divisive.
Yeah.
That's why top 40 pop songs are like, fine, you can play it in a grocery store, but it's not going to be the song that I want played at my wedding or at my funeral.
Yeah.
And I think that goes, that's the same thing with content. Another thing that is rampant on the internet, I've heard someone coin it as whataboutism. And it's just the whole idea that, everything, people feel entitled to their For You page or their algorithm, and that everything that's delivered to them should be for them. So if I make a video talking about knit sweaters, as we know, are one of the most expensive things to produce. Unless you're making a really shitty polyacrylic blend sweater that's going to fall apart after 2 washes, it's going to be north of $100. That's just how knitwear works. We know this. Same thing with Goodyear welted leather boots. If I'm making a video about knit sweaters, the lowest price thing, and I always do my best to make something affordable, my list affordable. The starting price is, Buck Mason knit sweater, it's $170 and it goes up to $550. The comments are going to be filled with people going, $170 for a sweater. That's ridiculous. Who the hell would ever pay for that? You don't have to. I'm not forcing you to buy the thing. Sure. This video isn't for you. If you don't want to buy a $170 sweater, you don't have to. I'm not going to make you. The starting idea of someone that's going to comment something like, what the hell, I'm not paying, $170 for this is ridiculous, is that you should have put something on there that's within my price range. I'm entitled for you to be making that content for me specifically.
Yeah.
And that comes from the tone. It's if you think $170 is ridiculous, that's your opinion, you're entitled to that. But if you're coming out, combatively and saying, what the hell, give me something for $40, you're in the wrong place. So part of me in my people pleasing nature will read a comment like that and go, I want to make that person happy. So I want to go out and find something. And if I can't, then I know that this video is going to generate some negative reactions. And sometimes I have a hard time with those negative reactions, even though I know they have nothing to do with me.
Yeah, so, totally.
I mean,
that was a long-winded answer.
No, that's perfect. That's exactly. I mean, it's a tricky. I mean, I've done retail buying all my adult life, and I've been called an asshole, classist, blah blah blah. I mean, everything that I can think that I've been accused of. It's happened, and it always comes down to like. There's really there's nothing you can do. I mean, it's just a fact of like, I have a set of morals that I buy within, you know what I mean? And I have a story I'm trying to tell with what I'm doing, and it has to fit within that. And I always try, just the same as yourself, I'm trying to make there be a span for everyone. There's like an entry point for everything. But also at the same time, like I can't break morals on what I think is appropriate or what I would recommend or whatever it is, just like you're dealing with. And it's like, it's really tough because you want to like educate, you know what I mean, to whatever you can do, but what's that person that's saying that is not interested in being educated on why? No. There's no reason, and you know what I mean. Then like that is it drives me crazy because you're like, do you see a nice car on the street and just flip out every couple of minutes? I mean, every time you see a Mercedes, you flip out because it's not for you. It's like that just exists. You don't have to. There's nothing. If it's not for you, then don't. Why are you even watching this? You know what I mean? Like you might. Yeah. So it's definitely. I mean, I don't think there's like anything you can really do about that. But I'm with you, man. It's like. It's tough to not want to be like, I want to do the right. I want to help you out. Maybe we can find something else. Like hit me up directly. But it's like it's never a conversation like that, you know?
Yeah. No, exactly. And yeah, like there have been rare moments where I've had someone kind of turn around after I myself put a lot of effort into trying to convince them of something. And at the end of the day, you know, it's like how much of my time and energy am I willing to put into this? And I'm a pragmatic person, right? Like I think the best example of that is. There are examples where like I've recommended people Uniqlo, and the reason why I do that, like I don't think that Uniqlo is a good company. I don't think that they operate morally, but I know that there are a lot of people that watch my videos that are 16, 17, 18 that may be willing to save up, you know, $300 for a pair of Red Wing boots, but they also have a whole other wardrobe that they have to fill in. And there are certain things that, you know, I understand that there's a lesser of many evils. And when it comes to something like a plain white t-shirt, they may not be willing to like go on Etsy and you know, thrift some vintage blank or anything like that. Like they may be looking for easy solutions for certain parts of their wardrobe. So if you want a $15 tee, you know, or you want a pair of socks or something like that, there are few places that are better and more accessible and that will hold up longer. And that's the important part, that will actually last you than Uniqlo. So in a case like that, okay, I'll kind of bend my standards a little bit because I know that otherwise, the person watching that video isn't going to go, well, okay, Uniqlo's shitty. Okay, I'm going to go to Mersby Schwarn and spend $100 on a t-shirt. No, they're going to skip over my video, go to some fast fashion creator's video, and they're going to go buy whatever they tell them to buy, which might be an H&M or a Shein or a Temu blank or whatever the hell. So like I try and mitigate some impact there, but again, I'm only willing to go so far. And I try and be pragmatic, but again, like it's not a perfect science. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's ever going to end. I mean, like I said, long before the internet was doing what it was doing, I was still dealing with this same pushback. You know what I mean? Within this region, it just is what it is. And I think that people are only willing to get educated so far, and all I'm there is to offer it if you're interested, and if you're not, I don't care. You do your own thing, baby.
We hadn't gotten meaner comments ever than when we ran, I think through Holiday or something, we ran some sort of video on Instagram of Timothy and I talking about Visvim boots, and the amount of like blue collar dudes that were like, these are fucking horse shit, $1,200 for a fake handmade pair of boots. And it's like, I hear you, bro, and I understand where you're coming from. Like there are handmade boots in the Northwest, and Red Wing is great example, et cetera, but to the point earlier, it's like, it's all good then, just move on. Like,
they're not for you. They're not for you.
It's okay. And that's totally okay.
Yeah. It's a difficult thing, I think, in like you're saying, in a world that just keeps getting more and more personalized, that there's, like you said, there's this assumption that every piece of content is made directly at you. And also I never understand, like you're saying, is like, I'm giving advice. You don't have to, I didn't make a declaration here that you have to have this or you're a piece of shit. It's just sort of like, this is what I'm into. Maybe you like it too, or here's like some other options. It's that chill. You know what I mean? And I think your videos in specific are probably some of the more chill of all of that you can, with actual backed research on the product. And there's a lot of people online giving a lot less, effort, putting a lot of effort and research into what the things that they're suggesting. And I feel like sometimes they get even less flack. And I don't know what it is, man. But
yeah.
I appreciate what you're out there doing. What do you think works? What do you think works about what you do compared to others? Like, why do you think people are resonating with what you're doing, and why now? Maybe more than ever.
When I started off, again, part of the reason why I wanted to make men's fashion content was there wasn't a lot of what I wanted to see in short form content at the time when I started. And there's a lot of talented creators that have started making content that, I really admire, that I think is, that is equally good, if not better than mine. And that I really have a lot of love and respect for those people. But at the time, there wasn't a ton of that, at least not that I was seeing. And a big piece of it is there's just like a couple key things that I never do. I never say, you need this, ditch this to buy that, throw out your Sambas, Onitsuka Tigers are the hottest. Like any of that, I think is just like, I don't talk about trends. I don't know if I've ever used the word trend on my channel. And it's not that I don't talk about things that are maybe trendy or in, but I just try to avoid sort of pushing any agenda. Like you said, I think it's always kind of a take it or leave it. I'm going to present something to you. Do with it what you will. Take this information or don't. And I hope it's helpful, or take little bits and pieces of it and go look for something elsewhere. Maybe you like the look of a linen sweater from one of my videos and you think, okay, I'm going to go on eBay and find something similar. That's awesome. Please do that. That's like the best case scenario.
Yeah.
That's always just kind of been my guiding principle. Again, when I was getting on, I saw a lot of videos that, because it worked for the algorithm and it would also create a lot of controversy in the comments. People were saying, throw this out, ditch this. You need this for this summer. I don't think I've ever used the word need. I don't think I've ever used the word trend. Like that. Those are just little things that it never felt right to me. It just felt kind of icky. A lot of it was just following feel. Like I never wanted to really put pressure on anybody to do anything that I was, that I thought let me rephrase that. I never wanted to put any pressure on anybody to go out of their way or make themselves uncomfortable because they felt like they had to fit into this box that the internet told them to, which I think you see a lot of, especially with how accessible a lot of trends are nowadays. A lot of people maybe feel a little lost when it comes to their style, and they get a video that preys on their insecurities and they think, okay, well, I'm going to go, buy through this affiliate link and, get these things, and it's going to make me cool, and it's, going to make women like me or make me feel better about myself or whatever the motivation is. And it doesn't. And you're sad and you're stuck with this piece of shit product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I felt that way in the past.
Oh, totally. And
I know how that feels.
Yeah, it sucks to feel like you're on the outside, you're being excluded. Where I feel like you had mentioned Red Wing boots earlier, and that's kind of where I got my in. I worked for Red Wing here in college, and then I had to move back home to finish college in Ohio. Worked for Red Wing there, and that was kind of like my in. I loved selling heritage. I would love when people come in and I could condition their boots and this, that, and the other. And I feel like at that point in the internet, it was very, very inclusionary, very community based. You wanted to be like, oh, my boy got this pair of Red Wings. I love how they look with this pair of jeans. I'm going to try on the same pair, but in the low top version, like the 875. But my buddy got them in black in the lows, and I thought that was really cool, and how he cuffed his jeans with it. And then something happened where it was actually the opposite of like, well, everybody has that now. So you actually have to move on to this thing. Sambas or dunks or whatever it was in the interim. And me and Timothy talk about how like we feel a little bit of a pull coming back towards, no, it's all cool. We can all like the same things. And if you don't, that's also fine. But we're all buddies, and it's just your clothes. Like, you know what I mean?
I feel like when I say that, like, I missed the, like, kind of sameness of menswear when it started, is more that I missed that there was a little bit more community. I mean, I know there's still community, but it's broken off so much, and then it got so segmented, and then it was, are you streetwear, or are you workwear, or are you whatever, and it just got so, I mean, it's honestly what I got so bored of with stores, but I felt like there was so many like niched out stores where I'm like, I know, but I don't just dress one way, and I don't want to come here just for that thing and then have to go somewhere else for the other. Like, I wanted there to be a place where you could be like, yeah, I like Marnie, and I also like engineered garments, and I also like you know, La Mer, and I like, you know, I can bounce around and still, you know what I mean, without it feeling like a department store, which is tricky, obviously, because there's a lot of factors there that make that tricky, but it's what we're attempting to do. Is just like, there's an eclecticism that I think everyone naturally is drawn to as a human, because your interests just shift around, and that's okay. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so difficult that I think especially guys want there to be like this uniform dress kind of thing, or like, I'm going to get into this. I think it's why we're all drawn to this idea that like, I'll buy this one jacket, that jacket lasts forever. And that's cool. I still think that's a reason to buy something. And there's plenty of pieces I have that have like already like lasted 15, 20 years and will continue to go with me, you know, but there's also a lot of stuff that could have lasted that long, and it just kind of, my style changed, you know what I mean? Or I changed a little bit, or you know, sizing changed, or styles changed, and you just kind of keep it moving. And that's also great. It holds its value. That's its own like unique selling point that people don't talk to about as much with this stuff. And you just kind of keep it moving. You know what I mean? I think that there's no reason to get stuck like so many guys do now, where it's like, I'm a this thing and I don't want to ever move, you know?
Yeah, I think it comes from, I think a lot of guys, especially guys who are starting their fashion journey, or they're new to their fashion journey, and new could still mean 5, 7, 10 years. You know, it's different for everybody, but I think guys view fashion as a box to be checked. They don't view it as a practice. And that's a really important distinction, right? You hear of people that say, and it's, you know, like, you hear about it with, you know, people saying, okay, I want to run a marathon. And they go out and they start training. They start with a 5K, they work up to a 10K, a half marathon. They get the marathon done. Awesome, I've run a marathon. And then they stop, you know, and then like all of a sudden they, you know, just because they've done it, they've checked that box. Like, I think we think that way a lot, as there are just things to be done. And I think a lot of guys get so stressed out with the idea of fashion, and the idea that like you may be swapping through things, you may be iterating, and they'd rather it just be something that they can get rid of and clear from their mind. And I think that's why we see a lot of like that, you know, the sort of comfort fashion stuff that's you know, been really successful with a lot of guys, but like the proper cloth shirts and things like that. Like athleisure, I think, kind of plays into that as well, because it's this whole idea of like, oh yeah, it's this uniform, it's gonna go with everything, but you're gonna be comfortable, and it's supposed to fill all of these different voids, but really never fills any of them well. Whereas I think a lot of guys should shift their thinking and view it as an iterative practice. It's like working out. You know, you don't just, you know, achieve whatever your workout goal is, squatting 225 or losing 30 pounds or whatever, and then stop. You don't just get there and then you're there for the rest of your life. It's something that you have to keep up with. It's like your health, or it's like playing an instrument, or it's like learning a language. You know, if you don't keep up with it, you'll lose it. And if you don't want to keep up with it anymore, then that's fine too. You don't have to. But yeah, I think a lot of guys would be a lot happier and a lot less frustrated with their style if they didn't think about it as a box to be checked. And I think that is why the factionalization of fashion was like such an attractive phenomenon for a lot of guys, because if they could brand themselves as a heritage guy or a streetwear guy or whatever, it gave you these very distinct guardrails to put yourself in, and that's less thinking that you have to do, and that's less questioning yourself that you have to do, and it's less hunting that you have to do, and it makes things easier. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine too. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're really about developing a personal style and you don't want to necessarily play into one sector, then like it's totally okay to bounce around. And I think a lot of people are, as a reaction to the factionalism that has left a lot of people feeling a little gross and maybe feeling a little left out, or just feeling like they're having to keep up with, whatever dickhead on Fedora Lounge. Like, they can just kind of play by their own rules.
Yeah. Honestly, the box being checked, that resonates with me. For years, I was, all right, now I've got it. I've got this jacket, and I know the T-shirts I wear, and I have 6 of them, and now I don't have to think about it ever again. Yeah. And then 6 months go by, and I'm like, ooh, I kind of like this thing, or I saw a kit, or I put something together in a new way. And it's something I still actively have to work on. I bought a new T-shirt today, being like, no, I can have a couple different T-shirts. They can fit different ways. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I work in this, obviously, and I've worked here at Canoe Club for almost going on like 8 years, 7.5 years at this point. And it's like, what's this? There is no completion. I will not just have it and just be done, despite the story that I tell myself. And so now I'm trying to enjoy it and like be less rigid. Embrace and just like, that. I like that I have 6 or 7 jackets that all look really similar, because they make me feel good. And then when I don't want them anymore, or they don't make me feel good, it's totally fine to move on to it and try something else. And
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, that resonated with me. I thought that I would check the box, and you can't. So
yeah, I remember seeing one dude made, and I'd seen a couple of his videos and I liked them, but he was a very classical menswear guy, like Pitti Uomo, very, very traditional menswear. And he'd made some video that was like basically shitting on streetwear and all these different like little sects of the menswear world and of the fashion world. And it was something along the line, and his reasoning for it was something along the lines of like, oh, you're going to look back at yourself in 10 years and think you look like an idiot. Whereas me, I'm going to, look at this picture of Steve McQueen from the 60s and look at this picture from some, jet setter in the 50s. And this always looks good. This always looks timeless, yada, yada, yada. But, and it was very he was talking down, and there was definitely kind of an air of superiority to that, which I really didn't appreciate and didn't like, because it felt like it was just boxing people in, and telling people that, again, like this box to be checked, that you have to, that you should be seeking something that is timeless. You hear timeless thrown around forever. Like, things can look good in any time period. Obviously, if you dress very of the era, you're probably going to look back and you're probably going to think, how you dressed was dumb, but there's nothing wrong with that. I'm always going to look back and think, oh, maybe that was a little silly because I don't wear that anymore. I'm not into that anymore. But that's part of it. Like, you shouldn't be avoiding that. You shouldn't be running from that. Again, embrace that. It's not a box to be checked. You don't have to whittle your style down until you've reached some singularity where you're all of a sudden, you've won the game and now you can dress the same for the next 50 years. Like, that's fucking boring. Like, I want to be 80 years old and still discovering, new ways to style something, new ways to dress, maybe coming back to the way that I dressed in the 20s, because who gives a fuck, you're 80, like, that's the fun part of it. And I think a lot of people would be better off if they just accepted that reality rather than tried to force themselves to beat the game, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. It's a thing where because especially when you start having to talk about this into a microphone for an extended period of time, and we have certain amounts of time we have to fill in a week with podcasting, and so you end up talking about a lot of the same things over and over and over again, and you start just putting your thoughts out there on, like, we'll discuss our closets a lot and just like how we're thinking about it and how we're changing it. And weirdly, everything we're discussing is like this really like what that guy is doing that you mentioned. I don't know who it was, but I know without knowing.
We know the fellas,
is this obsession with the past and the future. Like, all I do is live in, I don't want to have any fuck ups from the past, and in the future I want to be able to look at my sins. Like, who gives a shit about any of that? It's all just about living in the present and like doing what you want to do, what feels good right now. If you look at an embarrassing picture, so what do you mean embarrassing? First of all, you haven't given yourself enough time. You know what I mean? Like everyone would have said the 80s was embarrassing, and then everyone started dressing like that again. You know what I mean? Like it's all the same shit. It all is going to cycle around. Nothing you do is embarrassing. It's all clothes. It was all cool in the moment, and it'll become cool again because that's how fashion works. Everyone needs to we've talked about this before, but everyone needs to let themselves off the hook with fashion more than anything. I don't know, especially why guys take it so fucking seriously. Take notes from how women's has always approached it, where it's artistic, it's fun, it's expressive, it changes, and that's all great about it. It's all is what should be exciting about fashion. I never understand this. I want to buy one jacket, and that's the only denim jacket I have for the rest of my life. I'm like, yeah, that's great. And maybe if you're just like, I just need one because I'm not a huge denim jacket guy, that's great. I love denim jackets. They're all going to last me forever because if they're over $100, they likely will last that long. And you know what I mean? And like, they're all going to last, and I like them all, and I like them for different reasons. And I don't need to have just one that lasts because it's a thing I like. And who gives a shit?
Brings you joy.
It just needs to be like, I just wish it doesn't need to be just consumerism, because I understand that's the line you might kind of be not willing to cross of when you come, I'm just buying shit to buy shit. I'm not saying that. But if you love it and you care about it and there's a thing to have, I just don't think any of it, none of this really matters. It's all just fun. Yeah. You know what I mean? At the end of the day.
And I think in that too, like not to dissuade anybody, like just because you embrace this iterative approach to fashion doesn't mean that you won't have things that you'll have for the rest of your life. It's just that that's not the driving force of why you may buy something. And I think why that's the case is I have things that I initially bought because I thought I'm going to have this for the rest of my life. I'm going to spend, the extra dollars on this really well-made thing, and it will be the thing that I have for the rest of my life. And my motivation for it at the time was because it was a box that I wanted to check. I wanted to cross it off my list. And then I never wore it. And then I've got other things like this flannel. I pulled this flannel out of a rag house in some industrial park in where is it? Mississauga, Ontario. And this was among 200 other items that I bought to haul up with me to sell on campus. And I sold through almost everything. This is the only thing that I kept. I bought this to sell to someone else, and it was just one of the things that nobody bought. And I threw it on, like to go to my buddy's cottage or something like that, because I wanted something that I could beat up or whatever. And now this is like my favorite shirt. I love this shirt. It's a byproduct, you may go after things, and it's okay to go after things for the reason of like, it being good quality and it being able to handle your life and it staying with you for some time. But oftentimes the things that you think will do that won't actually do that. You might get tired of them. You might not like the way they fit after a little bit, and you end up getting rid of them. And then there are things that you totally didn't intend to buy. Maybe you got them as a gift. Maybe you found them in your grandparents' basement. Maybe you bought it for a friend and kept it for yourself, like whatever. Those things that stick with you for a long time are often not the things that you intended on buying for life. So I think it's like, not foolish, but I wouldn't let that be like your guiding light for every purchase decision that you make. And I think it is for a lot of guys.
I think that the best thing you can do is look at it as an investment. Number one, like I said before, an underpitched thing with buying nicer clothes is they hold their value. There's an excellent secondary market. It's easy to use. And if you buy nice things, they hold their value because people want them because they're beautiful objects. So that should be, in my opinion, number one, because all you're doing up until you find certain things is experimenting. You're just having fun. You're trying different things. And then you're saying, you're going to put a jacket on. You're going to go, once you start, I think real style happens once you completely stop thinking about what the fuck you're doing. You just have a bunch of stuff that I just know I like the way it fits me. I like the way it wears. This is how, I've had 100 denim jackets. This is the one that's outlasted all the others. Like once you get to that point, once you've put the time into the experimentation, that's when style really starts to, I think, take place, is once you've completely stopped thinking and obsessing about which one and all that. But I also know there's people like, me, who are, no matter how old I get, I love the research. I love the obsession. That's like most of it for me. Buying it is irrelevant, because as soon as that happens, it goes, I put things in my closet. I just want to keep researching and learning more about it. So I think you just got to accept that this is all just a thing where doing because it's entertaining and it's fun. And now in this great way, you know, as negative as it can be sometimes, there's people like you where I can go and have an entire experience in your comment section or interact directly with you, someone I respect their taste or whatever it is. And you can do that across the board, or you can go Discords, forums, blah, blah, blah. There's all these ways to connect that there didn't used to be. And you can live in this entire world and obsess about it with other people. And I think that's so cool. And we spend so much time fucking ragging on each other and doing all this stupid shit that's like, that's not the point of all this. You know what I mean? It was I think in my mind, if it's art doing what art's supposed to do, is it brings a bunch of people together and makes life more fun. So if you look at it more philosophical and just start being like, I don't care what I'm going to look like in the future. I don't care what I looked like in the past. I just am doing what I'm doing now, and then I'm going to switch it up, guaranteed. And then just being like, that's what's so cool about it, that you get to switch it up. Not every choice you get to make, you get to switch up every 2 seconds like that. You know, I'm sure you do. You're super into watches, right? That's like an even harder version of this, where, you know, it is like a way more expensive purchase. You do kind of think about these as lifetime pieces, but it's also like, it's okay to just enjoy it and collect them and fuck around. You know what I mean? Buy and resell. That's also part of it. It's part of the learning process, I think, too.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of why, like, and I've been asked this in like interviews before and on other podcasts, and like, how would you define your style? And I think I've made the decision to never define my style. It's just like a question I don't answer, because I don't see any reason to do that. And I think that would set a bad example, because a lot of people, I think, maybe obsess a little bit too much over thinking that they need to have a defined style. And I really resonated with what you said about your style of buying and curating, and the vibe that you guys want to put out, which is that, this is kind of a smorgasbord of whatever the fuck we like. You know, it could be selvage denim and La Mer and Marni, and, you know, this kind of weird mix of stuff. I really resonate with that, and it's always going to ebb and flow, and you don't have to put yourself into a box. So like, why bother putting a name on it, you know?
Yeah,
for me,
we're just trying to mix all the freaks together, man. Like that's like when things get way cooler, is when I put like the La Mer freaks with the denim freaks. You know what I mean? Like now we've got an interesting mix of people going. I think it's so incredibly boring. Like when you said, even when you're saying like, oh, I want to be. Look at these guys classically styled. If they were dropped into today, and I'm like, how boring to live a life where you've never changed your mind. You know what I mean? I do one thing for the rest of it.
Exactly.
How fucking boring. So if that's what you're into and that's what makes you feel good, I don't care what anyone else on the planet does, as long as you're not hurting other people. But Jesus Christ, like, just people need to let themselves off the hook with style, man. Like, it'll just find you if you're looking for it. You know what I mean? So I think you just gotta, you know, stop thinking about it so much and just start like living in clothes and stop worrying about it. And like, I think all the most interesting thing we've done as a business is connect people. I mean, I think that that's the most valuable thing we've brought to the table. We've broken brands, done all sorts of cool things that I'm really proud of, collaborations, yada, yada, yada. But honestly, like, all the connections we've made with people and connected other people together and seen how they've influenced and changed over time, that's the cool shit. That's like the only thing that like matters at the end of the day. So yeah. It's cool, man. I appreciate where you're coming from and what you're doing, because I think that so many creators are kind of the opposite of what you're talking about, which is much more hard-lined, much more, you know,
here's what you have to do,
much less researched, which I think is a bummer when you're like, man, if you're looking to this person, you've had to have done this stuff, and being okay that maybe you didn't have the right answer all the time, and you're going to change, and that's okay too. You know, we're here to figure it out together. I think it's really good shit, man. I really like what you're doing.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, man. We'll have to do something else again soon. Let's stay in touch.
I would love to. Please.
Yeah. Okay, cool, man. Well, if you ever need anything from us, you know us now too.
Yeah,
so hit us up.
You can bang our line, and certainly if you ever come to Colorado for any reason too, we'd
you're into like skiing and shit, I saw, right?
I love skiing. Yeah.
You got to come out. Yeah. We don't ski. I've never skied in my life, but we know people. We know the spots.
Well, let's go. I can teach you.
Yeah, there we go. We pizza on the kids' hill for a little while.
I'll keep up with you, but
perfect. That would be sick. I'm like considering spending a little time in BC, and I think it's like a pretty easy flight down. So
too crazy. Yeah. Let us know, man. Cool. Well, I appreciate you doing this, man. I appreciate the time. This has been killer.
Of course, man. Yeah. Anytime.
Right, we'll be in touch.
All right. Peace.
Peace.